Hartlike goeiemiddag en welkom hier op Sportstroom op Sportstories. Jy kuier hier so saam met Driekus Viljoen hier op episode 26 en saam met my vandag het ons 'n baie belangrike persoon wat betrokke is by letterlik alles met die naam van Colin Pel wat sportwetenskaplike is by Potchefstroom, by die Noordwes Universiteit, by die Proteas. Wat nog? Wat ek gemis?
Nee, daar's 'n paar privaat kliënte ook, maar ja, dis maar die drie grootes.
Die drie groot.
Ja.
Colin, baie welkom.
Dankie, ek waardeer.
Dankie vir jou tyd.
Ja.
Ja, kykers, dit gaan weer 'n bilingual program wees, Afrikaans en Engels, want Colin is so bekend. Hy het soveel mense oor see wat nie Afrikaans verstaan nie, wat hy probeer hulle gaan verduidelik in Engels, nee, ek joke sommer net.
Hierdie resume raak nou groot.
Hy raak nou groot. Ja, Colin, soos wat ons sê, ons gaan 'n bietjie chat. Jy's meer as welkom om Engels te praat en te doen en so aan. Nou vertel my, Colin, waar het Colin begin? Waar was jy op skool?
Okay, so I started in Petersburg.
Ja, nou sit sommer nog soutie
Ja, so
aksent.
Ja.
Sommer so bang.
Ja. Ek is my pa is so soutie en dan my ma is Afrikaans. So
Okay, so dit is die mengels waar
dis
dit
die
kom.
mengels wat daar inkom. Maar omdat ek so met baie Engels dit werk ook, you kind of adapt to it.
Okay.
So I started in Petersburg, or Polokwane, I was there at PHS. And there's always this expression or saying that says, good players don't make good coaches. Just because you're very talented doesn't mean you'll be a good coach, because it's one is playing, one is coaching. So I was a very bad sports player. Like I played third string, C-team rugby, second team cricket, wasn't athletically gifted. But if the saying says a good player does not make a good player don't make good coaches, then a bad player can technically. So that's where my love for sport came. I always knew that I had to work so much harder than the athlete next to me that was genetically gifted, and never excelled at that level. After that, I came to Potchefstroom, started here at the Northwest University in human movement sciences, and then I started to get a love for human movement and how you can take a program and help a rugby guy develop, netball player develop, hockey player. So my whole career up until now, doing my PhD in human movement sciences, how can we make athletes better? That is my philosophy, creating a generational athlete, because even at the university where I'm involved in, you can work with an athlete now for 2-3 years, and then they're playing at a national level or even provincial, domestic, overseas, and the foundation that you give them now is going to set the foundation for their performance going forward. Okay. So it's not just keeping them busy in the gym for participation marks or attendance. You really have to build a foundation, because your name and your brand, what you put into them, is what's going to sustain them for 2-3 years abroad. So that is where I come from, Petersburg, Polokwane.
Limpopo.
Ja, my ouers is nog steeds daar.
Okay.
En, but I've been here since 2012. Staying here, married, happy. Ek dink met Potch, it wasn't a place where I could see myself staying permanently. Wanted to go to Chicago. Yeah, American football at one point.
Okay.
But yeah, things just worked out differently. And as of right now, I am not regretting one instance of my decision to stay here.
So jy hou letterlik van Potch. So jy hou van die potholes.
Ons tolerate dit.
Tolerate dit nog.
Ja. But soos wat ek my spelers ook leer, sidestep ek ook om die potholes. Ja.
Nice. Okay, jy het nou gesê jy het nou geswat hier op die pik. En toe waar het jy jou eerste ronde begin met die afrigting? Toe jy nou betrokke raak met die afrigting?
So I did human movement sciences, then I did my honors in biokinetics, honors in sports science, and then I did my masters. But there was this internship year, and for that I had to go to Cape Town, Blau and Partners. Bokkie Blau was my mentor that side. He was the biokineticist for the Springboks in the 1992 or before that World Cup proceeding up to that. And we got involved with a lot of sporting codes, and I remember I started coaching there at Parel Valley High School. And It was with the rugby and the cricket, and then also had patients for rehabilitation. And after that, I came back to Potchefstroom, which I then helped out with the Northwest University under-21 rugby team. And I got an opportunity there at the under-21 Currie Cup Leopards. That was, I think, in 2018. And after that, there was a restructure. I lost my job at that point. My contract got terminated.
Oh.
Now I'm sitting as a master's student, and I worked in a gym as a sales consultant. And it was really humbling at that point, because you can easily develop this mindset of, I've got a master's.
Maar kyk wat doen ek.
Ja, kyk, ek is nou 'n sales rep.
Ja.
But it keeps you grounded, and it teaches you something. You can take something away from those challenges. And then I got an opportunity with the netball. And that was in 2019. As I got the job there, I knew nothing from netball. All I knew was I am a biokineticist, sports scientist, love sport, and I got an opportunity. And it was challenging because I knew nothing from netball. And I remember in my first 2 years, we had the highest injury rate out of all sporting codes. Almost lost my job. It was a big impact coming from COVID year, because now you work with players that for 5 months have been in lockdown, training from home. Now they step into a high performance program, and you expect them to perform at that level. So we sat with so many injuries. I'm not saying it was my programs. I'm just saying I learned a lot from it.
Okay.
And I think that was my turning point in sports science, because I think my mindset when I got into coaching, keeping players busy, just getting them strong, but they were not strong for netball. So I remember in 2020 with COVID, it was lockdown, but the TNL where I was involved in at that point continued. And I think it was a month bubble in Bloemfontein, and we were allowed to start training, I think, 2 months before. And within the first week of training, we got 5 grade 3 or grade 2 quad tears. Spierskeer.
Skeer af, mors af.
Nie mors af nie. The biggest one that we had was 12.8 centimeters.
Ja, sien, maar dit is wyd.
Dis 'n groot skeer.
Ja, dis heavy.
And immediately in my mind, it clicked, like, why is that? Because I remember, just like this podcast, I was doing online Zoom training sessions. Ons het 'n TV-kie gehad, camera opgesit, and I gave exercises. I watched how the players were doing it. It was once or twice a week. And I knew that they were training, but we still sat with so many injuries. And I knew that body weight exercises for high performance sport is not the answer.
Okay.
And that is why, if you look at some of the stuff that I'm doing on Instagram, my players are squatting 180, 200 kilograms. And now it gets into that myth, but it's a girl.
Yeah.
Girls shouldn't squat that heavy because it's going to make them like butch and macho and slow. But to the contrary, our athletes are very explosive. They're actually getting leaner and stronger. And we haven't had a lot of injuries in the last 3 years. I'm not talking about your occasional ankle roll or like ACL, which is contact. I'm talking about soft tissue injuries. It's not a thing for us because we prep the tissue. So yeah, that's where my whole coaching career started. I think my mind shift, where it really started for me in netball, was probably in 2021, after COVID.
After COVID.
Ja.
Okay, maar jy het nou gesê jy het niks geweet van netbal. Maar nou het jy hierdie postjob. Kom ons sê jy het nou die postjob. Wat 'n mindset moet jy nou vir jouself hê? Jy is nou gedemote of kom ons sê gefire. Het jou werk verloor, maar nou kry jy hierdie job. Hoe moet jy as coach ook mental reg wees om te weet, okay, ek het opportunity maar ek weet niks. Hoe sit jy dit agter mekaar?
For me, I never had that challenge because I'm a person that if I put my time and effort into something, like, it's got to be worth it. So I always knew that, and this is what I think a lot of strength and conditioning coaches fail to understand, is that players put their trust in you. we've got players that want to play at a national level or at a provincial level, and your job is to help them get there from an athletic perspective. They need to be explosive, they need to be fast. And your mindset has to be of a professional nature to say, listen, I'm going to give you the best program to get there. And yes, while I didn't know much about netball, I had to go and read, because I knew that, you know, this player's potential or future contracts might be dependent on what I can give them.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you've got this brilliant netball IQ. You can see an intercept coming from 6 miles away, but you're not fast enough to get there. What?
Ja, so dit is die tegnies agter die tegnies.
Yeah, you got to enable them to accelerate. You can see a ball coming over your head. Can you jump high enough to intercept it? And that was, and still is, my responsibility to develop that or help them develop that. So for me, I really had to go invest my time and effort, long nights. I'm doing my PhD in netball. You get a lot of people that do a PhD in this and this and that. I'm specifically looking at this program on a netball player. I've invested basically my whole career into understanding high-performance netball players.
So dit is nie net kom ons gaan op die baan en ons is 'n netbalspeelster nie.
Nee,
Daar is dinge wat regtig moet, as jy daar wil bo uitkom, is daar dinge wat daadwerklik moet aandag kry. En dit is, ek dink dis in enige sportsoort ook so. Maar ons praat nou van die netbal. So dis nie net kom ons gooi en vang en doel en sulke goed nie. Daar is daai belangrike dinge wat moet in plek val daar.
I think I'm going to play the Uno reverse card quickly. I know this is your interview, but I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So, if we look at a plank exercise, what is a plank used for? Why do we say to our players plank?
Soos wat ek nou dink is dalk vir jou, wat noem dit, jou core.
Ja, core.
Jy help jou core om dit stabiel te hou en sterk te maak en sulke goed. Dit is maar wat ons leuke maar.
That is what the whole social media influencer range pushes for.
Yeah.
To say, listen, if you want abs like this, do a plank like this. And then my first argument is show me one picture of a netball player planking on court.
Yeah.
So now we give them an exercise that they never do on court. And secondly, if you look at a plank, it's holding that position for 2 minutes.
2 minutes, yeah.
And if you fall, hypothetically, in netball, you're going to be up like this.
Yeah.
So you're not even going to be down there for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Secondly, if you look at movement, when the player is jumping, intercepting a ball, everything is rotation. The whole body turns. A plank keeps your body still.
So 2 minutes still.
Yeah. And I know, and I'm going to use this opportunity to just mention, like, we get critiqued a lot on our squats.
Okay.
Because we don't squat 90 degrees or below 90. Arse to grass, sorry. So it's ons atlete, they squat to this position.
Okay.
And then they say, yeah, but that's not a deep squat. And yeah, we're squatting 200. And they're like, yeah, but anyone can squat there. Now I'm saying again, show me where a netball player jumps from that deep knee bend. It doesn't happen. So why would I train my athletes from that position? It's got no transfer. So my approach is very different. And I also say that if you want different results, do something different.
Yeah.
If you're just going to do what everybody's doing, you're going to get the same results that they are getting. So, yeah, my philosophy has changed a bit in that regard. I constantly, I think, challenge norms. Every time I have a workshop or a clinic, my first opening statement is, I'm going to offend you today. And not by saying something about your personality or how you look. I'm going to offend the way that you think. Because we sit with sport from school level, university, provincial, national, that's getting more intensive. More matches, bigger contracts, more games, more tournaments, and we just expect the players to be able to tolerate that load.
Yeah.
I need to be able to prepare them. Otherwise, coming back to 2020, you're going to sit with a lot of injuries. So, yeah, I think holistically challenging the way we think, but we got to protect our players because, again, what we do sets the foundation for them in 5 years from now.
Ook al by die Noordwes en Hoe lank is jy by die Proteas betrokke?
So it's the under 21 Spa Baby Proteas.
Okay.
I recently got involved there. 26 November, I got a call from them to assess the baby Proteas because they've got the World Cup now in September.
Okay.
To see how they are performing, are they on the right track for a podium finish, and how we can develop them in terms of explosiveness, load management, and everything like that. So, it's the under 21 baby Proteas, and for me, I've been working with them now for just the first week of the TNL, but still just looking what they're currently doing, because it's challenging, because half of the players are not from our university. They sit at Tuks, Koffsies, Maties, Wits.
Maar wat doen jy dan nou in so 'n situasie?
So, at this point in time, I'm just responsible still to manage their load, see what they're struggling with, because there's still a lot of preparation coming in terms of the World Cup.
Yeah.
So for now, for me personally, I'm just seeing what this player is struggling with, because I don't get to see them every day.
Yeah.
So I'm just seeing, once they move on court, is this player struggling with jumping, acceleration, core strength? And that is right now, we're just monitoring at this point to see.
Nou as jy nou sien 'n netbalspeelster sukkel om te spring. Hoe lank tyd het jy nodig om haar te kry waar jy al wil hê? Soos wat jy nou sê, die World Cup is nou in September. En daai girl kan nie nou spring nie. Wat se management of ding het jy nou in plek wat jy vir haar nou kan help in hierdie kort tydjie om bietjie hoër te spring?
Unfortunately, there's no quick fix.
Well, is nie.
No. I think I smiled now when you asked that question, because it's a question that I get a lot. If you look at some of our players that really jump high, I remember this one question from a player, a first year, that asked me if they ever want to jump as high as Sanmarie, how long would it take them? And I asked them, do you know how long Sanmarie has been with me? She said, probably 3-4 years. I said, it's going to take you 3 to 4 years. Because that is how long it took her to develop that level. Yes, the programming and scientific basis for our conditioning, we try to improve it every year, and we might cut off certain time frames. We might be able to develop this component of strength development a little bit earlier, but it's not going to be from 4 years to 6 months. So you can get them. Luckily, all the universities are doing a measure of strength training.
Okay.
So it's not a concern.
Yeah.
For me, it is just when to do it. In terms of, I love this expression, you can be strong, you can be explosive, and you can have all these athletic qualities, but if you cannot move, you cannot help us. And this is another question that I ask. I know some of my players are like, yeah, I know that question's coming. If I have to ask you again, rugby, cricket, hockey, netball, tennis, golf, 6 sports, what commonalities do those 6 sports share in one word? And the answer is not a ball.
Movement.
That's the one thing. That's the one similarity that all these sporting codes have is movement.
Yeah.
Yes, you need to be strong, but a netball player needs acceleration, where a wing on rugby needs speed.
Yeah.
So, but both need to be able to move.
Yeah.
And that's where sport-specific training comes in, how you make it specific to them. So in my programs, even where I'm working there with Gimmies, I'm there at the netball, I'm there with the rugby, the cricket, the hockey. I'm teaching the players how to move, but specific to their sporting code.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think it easily creates this whole mindset of, yeah, but he works with netball.
Yeah,
like,
precies, yeah.
I'm a rugby player.
Yeah.
I think what players fail to understand is I've been at the rugby for almost 2 years
Yeah.
before this. So, I have a good understanding of all sporting codes, because I also did my master's in hockey. So I've been involved in almost everything. It's now just teaching them how to move.
Hoe oud is jy nou?
I am 32.
En jy het 2 masters degrees.
No, 1 master's, 2 honors.
2. Ja.
Ja.
Ek nou, waar kry jy nou tyd gekry om dit te swat en al daai goeie so bymekaar? Time management.
Time management. I think daai is die, dis 'n vletjie antwoord, but it is. Time management.
Time
You
management.
And I mean, even I'm very thankful for my wife having patience with me, but you're married, you've got a family responsibility, you're involved in church structures, you're involved in sport and everything, and you still make time for your studies. You invest into yourself. It's not just for the accolade to say, oh, it's no doctor.
Yeah.
I've learned more this year in my PhD from our findings that will ultimately enhance my program going into next year. It's going to be a complete 180. My program has been, I truly believe, been successful up until now. But next year, I want it to be better. So it's going to be a complete change.
Ja, maar dit is wat ek dink is wat 'n goeie coach goed maak. Dis nie om te stagneer nie.
Ja.
Jy moet elke jaar vernuwe. Jy moet jou beter doen obviously as jou opponent se afrigter of se sportwetenskaplike. Net soos die voorbeeld van Rassie. Rassie is elke jaar net 'n stapie beter as enige internasionale afrigter. So ek dink dit moet julle ook. Om daar top te bly en top te perform, moet jy jou ding heeltemal sodat jy nou sê 180 degree gaan verander. En dit is ook time consuming. Om daai hele ding te revamp as jy dit so kan sê.
There was an expression from the All Blacks that said, when you're at the top of your game, change your game.
Yeah, okay.
Because here's the thing, we also, if you look at my social media, and I'm going to spoil a lot for the viewers, I share a lot of my content on Instagram. And people think, they see a squat and they see a box jump and they think, that's going to get me explosive. I've got a question. All universities squat. All universities are doing box jumps. All universities are bench pressing. If you don't see that level of explosiveness develop in your own program, then it tells you it's not the squat. Because if we're both squatting, we should have similar explosiveness attributes. And it's not the squat. It is how you teach them how to implement it, how to use it, again, teach them how to move. We're not bodybuilders. Ons gaan nie net om te kyk hoe swaar jy squat nie.
Yeah.
If you look at some of my squats, one foot is in front of the other. It's nie so langs mekaar nie.
Yeah.
Because if you look at an athlete, voete is nie altyd langs
mekaar nie.
They're standing like this. So if you see my squat sometimes, they're standing split stance.
Sure.
So I try to take what I see on court and then work that into my program so that when a coach gets the players from a gym session, she doesn't need to work on quick footwork and everything because I've already developed that component as to the best of my ability so that they can just take court and play.
Ja. So jou oefeninge is pertinent, amper kan ek sê game gebaseerd. Soos wat jy op die veld is, so is jou oefeninge van die veld af. Maar dit maak sin soos wat jy gesê het. Help jy plank vir 2 minute en daai oefening is useless eintlik. So jy moet daai knowledge ook hê om oefeninge pertinent uit te werk wat gaan werk om hulle beter te maak in game related oefeninge.
Ja.
Ja. Okay, jy is nou sportwetenskaplike by Gimmies. Wat presies is jou werk daar? Waarna kyk jy daar?
So we are a team there. It's myself leading the program, then working with all the coaches. Then I've got 2 sports scientists working under me. It's Yanni and Caitlin. Quick shout out. And
what's their name?
Yanni and Caitlin.
Yanni, Caitlin, shout out.
And so yeah, we are involved in teaching all athletes, like with the rugby, starting at under 14, building them up because I think this was my mindset when I first started even with the Gimmy program, is we work with the top first team athletes because that is who everybody's wanting to see. If you now look at Gimmy Volkie.
Yeah, this weekend.
Ja,
eerste spanne.
Eerste span. Almal gaan kyk vir die eerste span onder 14 selfs 'n paar ouers, but it doesn't help you invest all your time into the first team and you have this young group coming through which will one day form the foundation.
Ja.
Jy kan nie ooit op 'n plek kom wanneer jy wakker skrik en jy dink, "O shit, hulle is nou onder 16, volgende jaar is eerste span, nou moet ons hulle ontwikkel nie." If you can develop them now, where will they be by the time they've like first team?
Ja, 5 jaar.
Ja.
5 jaar plan, 4 jaar plan dan.
So we,
Maar dis awesome.
yeah, so we develop all the sporting codes there.
Okay, maar jy spesialiseer nou, okay, kom ons sê tans in die netbal. Maar nou kom jy by die cricket oefening. Dan moet jy rugby oefening toe gaan. Dan moet jy hockey oefening toe gaan. Hoe change jy jou dynamic so vinnig op, kom ons sê op 'n middag?
So it is very difficult because there's not enough time during a day.
Yeah.
Because there's only, let's say, one of me. In the afternoon, all the sporting codes train in the gym, and we are responsible for that.
Okay.
So when they go to, let's say, the field, the coaches work with them there. And then we work with the coaches. The coaches say, listen, I can see the athlete isn't fit or strong in this regard, so we want you to work on this in the gym. And then we adapt our plans and programs according to that. And then also, I think my biggest question is always, what does the week look like?
Yeah.
If they are playing a big match, then we change our load and our programming that they're not walking into matches fatigued.
Okay.
So it's not, we tried that before.
Yeah.
We tried to be involved at the field as well, but there's just,
Time management.
The sporting codes in the gym, it can get tricky.
Okay, maar nou wil ek jou vra met die time management. Jy het nou, soos die Afrikaners sê, jy het baie hooi op jou vark. Hoe affekteer dit jou somtyds as mens? Want nou is jy NWI netbal, jy's gimmies, baby, waar pas alles op jou vark? Ek weet ons praat van time management, maar dis daai vraag wat ek jou wil vra.
I think that's the most difficult question.
Ja, dit is presies.
It can sometimes be demanding. I think if you look at my schedule, every morning I wake up at 4 and then my day starts. Then I'm in the gym at 5. Our first players arrive there at 6. Then I pack out all the stations because I know I only have the player for an hour. I can't waste 20 minutes to first set up all the stations. So I'm there at like 5 starting to pack everything out so that once they arrive at 6, we start. And then, during the day, you catch up on your admin, you start writing the programs for the next day. And then in the afternoons, it's sporting code, you get home. And
Hoe laat kom jy by die huis? Op 'n besige dag?
Op 'n besige dag, dan kom jy so 6, 7 die aand by die huis.
Maar vat jy werk huis toe?
No.
So, dit is my belangrike vraag wat ek... So, jy hou jou werk by die werk en jou... En dan is dit familietyd.
It's they say it's an unspoken rule, but in our household it's a spoken rule.
Okay.
Like, if you are at work the whole time, don't bring your work home. And that's also sometimes why I wake up at 4. If I'm not even prepared for the next day yet, I would rather spend that evening with family and then the next morning wake up a little bit earlier and finish your planning, as opposed to being successful in your career, but your own household doesn't get the necessary attention. But over weekends, as much as possible, I try to rest. Ek dink ek is maar nie 'n kluisenaar nie, maar
jy chill net by die huis.
You work with a lot of people during the week, and I think this is sometimes you uplift people, you edify them. You tell them, because sometimes they doubt, and then you're going to say, you can do this. You've been prepping for this, and you uplift, and it takes a lot of
emotions.
Maar
dit vat uit jou uit ook.
You're really pouring into them. And then when you get home, you also got to be emotional and you've got to be there. You can't be a zombie at home. So sometimes it can be. So I just know over weekends I try to just find myself a little bit.
Okay, maar wat doen jy dan om bietjie weg te breek? Jy is Colin en vrou lief. Hoe lank is julle nou getroud?
5 years.
Okay.
Jy vrou nou baie moeilike vraag.
Ek het geweet ek gaan jou vang. Nee, om nou net jou kop skoon te kry. Onthou, mens bly mens. Waarvan hou jy? Om by die huis 'n vuurtjie of braai?
jy kan sien ek's 'n soutie op hierdie punt.
O, okay, jy braai nie. Jy braai nie.
Okay. So my wife and I were busy renovating the house.
Okay,
So
dis ook iets lekkers.
no, it's something I remember my dad he took us to Builders Warehouse and I was like, what are we doing here? And then I would rather want to go into like the mall, but now I'm at that point like ek wil in Builders gaan rondloop om te kyk wat kan ons nou doen. But we also sometimes go on retreats.
Okay, so hulle gaan net
weg. Bos toe.
Totally gone.
Ja. And then
So jy like die bos?
Ja. Ek kom Bosveld.
Maar jy's dan 'n soutie.
Ja, maar Pietersburg.
Bosveld soutie.
Ja, my vrou is van Durban af. So
okay.
But I mean for me just try to break away from sport.
Ja.
Because if you
Maar dit is nodig. Dis genuine, dis nodig.
But I also think that there comes a point during the year from let's say November to mid-Jan where it's off season.
So dan het jy ook 'n off season.
It's off season for the players, but it's also off season for me. So I usually take the first month at least to do nothing. Just break away, get my thoughts clean, and then in the second month I start reading on new concepts, new ideas, and then I start planning for the new program.
Maar jy sê Bosveld en Vrouliefsee.
Ja.
So jy breek dit maar op 50-50.
Probeer
ons gaan maar 'n bietjie Bosveld toe, bietjie see toe, bietjie Bosveld toe.
Of hier is 'n ander plek hier by te Tanglewood.
Okay, ja.
'n dam wat water is en bos.
So is al twee.
2 for 1.
So 2 for 1.
Ja.
En dan nou is sportwetenskap. Is dit 'n moeilike job? As ek dit so kan vra. Ek weet elke job het maar sy uitdagings. Maar is 'n sportwetenskaplike moeilike job?
Yes, and no, I'm not going to be flaky and say, if you enjoy your job, it's never hard.
Yeah.
It is hard. I think the aspects of sport science, for me to go read up and understand concepts, because you're going to read up on new things that you don't understand or have background on. And you're going to try and get an understanding and how you can then implement that in your program. Once you understand it, implementing it, it's easy.
It's easy.
Writing your programs, it's easy. And I think sometimes you don't want to overburden your players by making them understand. Because even here, not once, I think, have I gone into an explanation to say, okay, if you look at the ATP production in the body and the creatine, it's like, I've lost half of the viewers at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, when I ask them, if you want to be better at jumping, just jump. I'll find the method for you. You just do it. So that sometimes can be hard. Okay, and I also like to do my own programs beforehand, because there's nothing worse when you tell a player, I want you to do this, and she's like, how does it look? And you're like, I think I saw a video on YouTube. You have to try your own exercises. If you cannot do your own exercises, how do you expect them to do it?
Okay.
So, yeah, I think that can be the hard part. Your own body can take shots.
Yes,
I think
yeah.
Me being 32, sometimes I'm like, this is what I put my players through.
Yeah,
but they are resilient.
Yeah.
And me not playing high-level sport, I use that as my crutch or excuse. So ek speel nie meer sport nie, so dis hoekom my lyf 'n bietjie meer shots vat. Maar you gotta invest into them by obviously investing into yourself with research, trying new methods and trying it out.
Maar waar kry jy nou daai new methods? Waar doen jy nou die research? Okay, jy's nou 2025, right, jy's top. Waar gaan soek jy 2026 se verbetering op dit?
So this is already, we'll do that improvement at the end of 2026, because I started now with my PhD.
Okay.
And we tested a training method. And I'm not going to name that training method yet. But I've been doing that method for 5 years. 6.
Okay.
And I saw an argument online that said you must swap the two phases around. And I said that makes no sense. So I spoke to the guy that invented the method, and I spoke to the guy that said you must swap them around. And both of them said, no, like, this is my method, just take it as it is. And this one says, no, this is the better method. You can ask them, but where's your proof? I don't have proof. I just know it works. So I was like, let's test it.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of success in terms of our athletic development using Method A.
Yeah.
This is what we've been doing for 6 years, and it's enabled our players to perform at a very high explosiveness level and power endurance, all those attributes that you want. And then I said, let's swap the two programs around. So now I'm taking my players, links, ini, mini, mini, mo,
Yeah.
swap. Just you do program A. You are actually the successful group because we know this is the program that we've done.
Yeah.
And this is the intervention group.
Yeah.
They are at risk because we don't actually know if this program is going to work. We just have to trust, they have to trust me that I'm not sucking things out of my thumb.
Yeah.
I've done the research to say it actually looks that this method can work. But you've got to trust me now. And they can't develop now this mindset of, yeah, but I'm now in this intervention group that's not going to work and my athletic explosiveness is going to dip.
Yeah.
Because now you sit with players that, let's say, want to play at a national level, and their mindset, that fear is, what happens if I'm not as explosive as the program that we already know works?
Yeah.
Now I have to...
Yes, maar dit is belangrik.
Yeah. And fortunately, our hypothesis, it does seem to be going that way.
Genuine.
Yeah. And it's not to say that Group A
Yeah.
is not improving. They are improving. This is the OG program that's always worked.
Yeah.
But by swapping the phases around, we've actually seen, oh, there's actually a big difference.
Big difference.
But we also noticed some drops in performance here and there
Oh, okay, yeah.
when we did our physical testing. And now that's just to answer your question. How do I prep for next year? I know some aspects of this program is working.
It's working out.
But there's certain aspects that are dropping. So now for next year, if we, let's say, take everything together, because I've got one phase left to test.
Oh, okay.
And then if we see at the end of the day this program is better, then we'll move to that program. But the drops in certain aspects of performance, I'll find methods to account for that.
Yeah.
That's just going to prevent it from dropping.
Yeah.
And that is my approach going into next year. So yes, I'm already using this year to plan for next year. Yeah. So I think at the end of 2026, we're starting to plan for 2027.
Oh, so jy dink ver vooruit.
Yeah, we try to, because I think this is also the big thing, especially in injury. If you have an injury now, you get blamed at that point to say, yo, what did you do this morning in the gym? You don't think about what you've been doing for 8 weeks before that.
Before that, yeah.
It's like, I tell my players, it's like Jenga, those blocks.
The blokkies, yeah.
You pull out, and the tower starts swaying. You pull out that last block, the thing collapses, and then we blame that last block, because that's the thing that made it collapse. But we don't account for all the blocks that made the thing unstable.
Unstable, yeah.
So, yeah, we already working, modifying the programs to make sure that this tower is stable. Because you can easily say, oh, well, what did you do in the gym today? Or what did the players do on court today? But it's, what was the load for 8 weeks preceding the injury?
Yeah.
So that's why, yeah, we're already prepping for next year and seeing what works, what doesn't.
Nou my volgende vraag. Is netbal 'n kontaksport? Ek moes daai vraag vra.
If you look at social media, it's considered non-contact. It's called non-contact. It is contact. It is contact.
Stem 100% saam met jou.
Why is there why is a certain penalty called contact?
Yeah.
Why do the umpires put
Contact, yeah.
So it is a contact sport.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't have that infringement.
Yes.
We try to limit contact as much as possible. I mean, we sit with players that have concussions. We sit with players that both are jumping for a ball. When the match is on the line, World Cup final, a ball, you have to intercept it. You're going to put your body on the line to get that ball.
Yeah.
And sometimes players do get penalized for foul play or something that could be considered dangerous, and then they're sent off.
Maar wat is dangerous op 'n netbalveld? Waar sy of hy nou afgestuur kan word?
So I'm going to now direct this line of questioning so that we move away from netball rules. Because even in 7 years, I asked my players over the weekend, I said, is the netball line a part of the court or is it outside court? Because in rugby, if you touch the line, you're
It's out, yeah.
And then they said, after 7 years, they said, no, it's part of the court. You can step on it. So I was like, oh, okay. But to answer your question, if you use your body as a missile, you have to kind of respect a player's landing space. They're jumping in this direction. They're going to land there. You cannot launch yourself as a projectile into that space. If you see in rugby when it's up and under, you tackle a person's feet out from under him. The same in netball. That's dangerous play. If you just, as a missile, launch into a player. If it's a bump, you can be cautioned. But if you flat out, daai een persoon lê daar
net so poef.
Ja, then it's immediate suspension.
Immediate. Dis dit ook kaarte wat mense kry.
No, they just
sê daar gaan jy.
Daar gaan jy. And then it's also based on time, so it's like usually 2 minutes, 5 minutes, I think. I don't know. But I know they get sent off.
Dis daar gaan jy. Okay, nou maar hoe lyk jou preparation vir die Noordwes netbal? Jy het ook mos 'n Varsity Cup of is dit nog op pad of kom dit of is dit reeds ook verby?
No, so we are now busy with the provincial, so this is TNL and then
Dis mos daai Telkom.
Ja.
Telkom Cup.
Ja, Telkom Netball League.
Ja.
And then after that it is going to be USAS. So this is university sports. So this is where the university participates. Then after that, if I'm not mistaken, it is going to be TNL again. Then it's Spa Champs. So this is district netball. So this is all the surrounding areas like Rustenburg. There's your Dr. KK's.
Okay, so die atletiek wat hulle so ingedeel het, ja.
And then later during the year, I think it's August, September, Varsity Cup starts. So there's a lot of netball this year. It's back to back to back to back. And fortunately, most of our players are in my system. So it's not necessarily working with players that sit in Cape Town, and it's players that come from our university in a TNL setting. So it is very easy to manage their load, knowing, okay, the next tournament is 3 weeks from now. It's a big tournament, so we need to scale off in this aspect to make sure that they peak in this one. If we see that this one is, okay, it's an average competition, like this weekend we played InterVarsity. We're not peaking for an InterVarsity. It was good for game time, testing combinations and everything.
Wie het julle gespeel?
So this weekend we played Wits, Tuks and Proxies.
Sure, klompie.
This is just 3 games in one day with rest in between, but then just getting game time.
Okay, maar geen op die spot sit. Gaan julle die Varsity Cup wen?
I think, if I'm being dead honest, I think we've got a very good shot.
Wow, well done.
I think our players are hungry. I'm not awesome. Even talking about what we as management are putting in. If you ask, do I think my players that I work with can 100%? I think they're hungry. I think for 5-6 years, one of my players is 6 years with me. The hunger. We've played, that girl specifically, she's played in a Varsity Cup final. I think there's a hunger. So I'm not even, if you're talking, I will always give my best to make sure our athletes perform at a high level. But for me, if you ask me point blank, I think they're very hungry and I do believe it's possible.
Yes, want ek moet vir jou sê, as jou spelers na daai antwoord nie in jou glo nie, dan dink ek nie jy is goed genoeg nie. Maar jy het geantwoord sonder dat jy letterlik eintlik gedink het. So jy trust jou spelers so met jou programme en alles dat jy dit glo. Wow, awesome. Hoor jy die tyd het ons ongelukkig gevang?
That was like 10 minutes.
45 minutes, come and gone. Awesome. Hoor jy baie sterkte vir wat voor lê. Dankie vir wat jy vir die gemeenskap doen. En moet nou nie nog hooi op jou vurk sit nie. Maar doen wat jy doen, soos wat jy doen, soos ons altyd sê, go out do 120%.
Ja.
Okay, go out and do 150. So gaan uit en gaan geniet dit en gaan geniet dit net en weer eens dankie dat jy gekom het.
No, thank you so much for having me. It was really an honor.
Dankie, ek waardeer.
Okay.
Dankie. Ja, dit was Colin gewees daar van die Noordwes Universiteit, van Gimmies, van Baby Proteas, van reg deur die bank, amper dokter, meestersgraad, al daai dinge. Dit is einde van episode 26. Tot 'n volgende keer, selfe plek, selfe tyd. Totsiens.